The galaxy had grown quiet. For centuries, humans had explored distant star systems, built massive cities in orbit around shining suns, and forged alliances with friendly alien races. Humanity's fleets had become legendary, not because of sheer size but because of their unyielding courage and cunning. Ships glided through the void with precision, their crews trained to respond to any threat. Most species had come to respect humanity, even fear it, knowing that once provoked, humans did not hesitate. Yet, in the far reaches of the Orion cluster, beyond the edge of well-charted space, something stirred. Something dark, cruel, and calculating. The Zerathians, the last species to truly enrage humanity, had survived, hidden in the shadows for decades. Tentacled, cunning, and merciless, they had once raided human colonies without warning. Families had been lost, entire outposts burned to ash, and entire star systems had felt their cruelty. Survivors told stories in hushed whispers of their nightmares, of ships crushed in seconds, of humans captured and experimented upon, and of an enemy that seemed to delight in pain. Humanity had recovered, but the memories were scars etched into every heart. No one forgot. Now, after decades of silence, the first sign of them returned. A faint distress signal blinked across the monitoring systems of the Vera 9 mining station. At first, it seemed routine. Miners often sent signals when asteroid storms damaged equipment. But the message carried something different. Something cold and deliberate. You cannot stop us. Admiral Kale Soren, commander of the warship Resolute, read the transmission twice. He had studied the history of the Zerathians, memorized their tactics, and trained his entire life for this moment. He felt a deep, burning anger, but beneath it lay something more profound: determination. Humanity had survived every enemy it had ever faced, not because it sought war, but because it refused to bow. And now, the Zerathians were back, daring to test that resolve once more. Kale walked slowly across the bridge, his boots echoing softly on the metal floor. The crew watched him with quiet respect. They had heard the stories too. They knew the stakes. And yet, despite the danger, there was no fear in their eyes, only a fierce sense of purpose. Humanity did not run from threats. Humanity faced them as the Resolute prepared to depart for Vera 9. Kyle paused to look out into the endless black of space. Stars glittered like shards of glass, distant and cold. But in that darkness, he imagined the faces of the Zerathian victims, families torn apart, colonies destroyed, hopes snuffed out like candles. Every loss demanded justice. Humanity would not strike blindly, but when they did strike, it would be decisive. The Zerathians would feel the full force of human ingenuity, courage, and fury. On board, Lieutenant Mara, Kale's communications officer, monitored the transmissions with grim attention. Every message from the mining station seemed calculated to provoke, to mock. And yet the humans aboard the fleet did not waver. Instead, their silence spoke louder than any reply. They were preparing, silently, for a reckoning. For the first time in decades, the galaxy trembled with uncertainty. The Zerathians, who had thought themselves untouchable, had awakened something far stronger than fear in their enemies. Humanity had survived horrors no other species could endure. Humanity had grown stronger, smarter, and faster, and humanity never forgot. As the Resolute slipped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the safety of the known star lanes behind, a quiet resolve settled over the crew. They were no longer just explorers or defenders. They were the bearers of justice. The last species to enrage humanity had returned, and they would soon learn that mistakes of the past were never forgiven. In the cold, endless expanse of space, the first sparks of war were forming, and humanity was ready to light the fire. The Resolute slid through the void like a blade through darkness, faster-than-light engines humming with quiet power. Every crew member felt the weight of what lay ahead. The Zerathians were cunning, ruthless, and patient. They had spent decades hiding, rebuilding, and watching humanity grow. But the humans had grown too, not just in strength but in unity and resolve. Admiral Kale Soren stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the holographic projection of Vera 9. The planet's surface shimmered with settlements and mining complexes, quiet now, except for the faint signals of distress. Kale's mind wandered briefly to the first attacks decades ago. Families torn apart, stations exploding, survivors drifting helplessly in space. Humanity had been wounded then, but it had not been broken. And now, the time had come to show the galaxy what it meant to enrage humanity. "This is more than a mission," Kale said, his voice steady, carrying across the bridge. "This is a reckoning. Every life lost, every outpost burned, every act of cruelty, they will answer for it." The crew nodded in silence. There was no shouting, no wild declarations, only a shared understanding. Humans were not vengeful for pleasure. They were focused, precise, and unstoppable when justice demanded action. Ships rearranged themselves into formation with smooth efficiency, shields humming, weapons charging. Every pilot knew their role. Every officer knew the stakes. Humanity's preparation was a quiet, deadly art. Lieutenant Mara, monitoring incoming signals, reported the Zarathian movements. Hundreds of ships were closing in, surrounding the planet in a complex, shifting formation. Their weapons were powerful. Their armor advanced, but their arrogance blinded them. They assumed that humanity, despite all its legends, would hesitate, would falter. They were wrong. Kale's hand rested lightly on the console as he considered the fleet's options. He thought of every strategy humanity had mastered: stealth, speed, precision strikes, coordinated assaults. Humanity had learned to fight in ways no other species could predict. And most importantly, humans never gave up, never panicked, and never left their comrades behind. "Form the spear," Kale ordered. The fleet responded instantly. Ships shifted into a spearhead formation, the point aimed at the heart of the Zarathian trap. It was not just an attack, it was a statement. Humanity did not stumble into battle. Humanity advanced with intention, with courage, and with fury tempered by discipline. As the Resolute led the fleet closer to Vera 9, the Zarathians began their taunts. Broadcasts filled the void, dripping with mockery and contempt. "Foolish humans, you cannot win. You are slow, you are weak, you are predictable." The messages were designed to unnerve, to shake confidence. But every human aboard the fleet only listened with sharper focus. The anger the Zarathians had sown long ago had become resolve, and that resolve could not be broken. Kale glanced at the crew. Pilots, engineers, gunners, every person aboard moved with calm determination. Some faces were tense, some silent, but all carried the same fire in their eyes. Humanity had endured worse than this. Humanity had risen from ashes, survived impossible odds, and now, humanity would deliver justice that could not be ignored. In that moment, something shifted in the hearts of every human present. The galaxy beyond was dark and full of danger, but humanity's light burned brighter than ever. They were not just soldiers, they were the living embodiment of endurance, courage, and the promise that no injustice would go unanswered. The Resolute's engines pulsed brighter as the fleet accelerated. The stars streaked past in long, brilliant lines. Humanity was awake, humanity was ready, and the Zarathians, the last species foolish enough to provoke them, would soon learn that when humans fought, it was not just with weapons, it was with the weight of memory, honor, and unyielding will. And in the cold, vast silence of space, humanity moved like a storm, drawing closer to the Zarathians' trap, ready to strike with precision, power, and the force of a wrath long held in waiting. The void around Vera 9 shimmered with the glow of hundreds of ships. The Zarathians had prepared well. Their fleet twisted and shifted like a living organism, forming intricate patterns meant to confuse and trap any intruder. To the untrained eye, it was chaos. But Admiral Kale Soren saw it clearly. He knew that every movement, every angle, every line of fire had a purpose. It was a trap, and humanity had come to break it. "Report," Kyle ordered, his voice calm, but firm. Lieutenant Mara's fingers danced across the console, analyzing streams of incoming data. They're heavily armed and spread across all orbits, shields at maximum, weapons charged. They've prepared for a direct assault. They expect hesitation. Kyle nodded. Then we will give them none. The human fleet advanced. Ships moved in perfect synchrony, forming a spearhead that cut through the darkness like a blade. Each vessel knew its role. Engineers adjusted power to weapons and shields. Gunners targeted precise points in the enemy formation. Pilots calculated intercept courses to avoid concentrated fire. There was no panic, no confusion, only focus. Humanity never hesitated. The counter-Zerathians broadcast another taunt. Their alien voices hissed and shrieked over the void. Humans, you are weak. You will die here, forgotten and broken. The words carried venom, intended to frighten. But the humans felt only calm resolve. Anger had long ago turned into determination. Each member of the fleet remembered the lives lost, the colonies burned, the screams that haunted the past. This was not fear. It was purpose. Kyle's eyes narrowed. Prepare the forward batteries, target their lead vessels, disrupt their formation. He paused, watching as the fleet obeyed instantly, moving like one living entity. The spear was more than a formation. It was a statement. Humanity did not stumble blindly into danger. Humanity advanced with precision, intelligence, and unshakable resolve. Then, the first shots were fired. The silence of space shattered with the hum of plasma beams and the roar of energy cannons. The lead Zerathian battleship shuddered as the Resolute's targeting systems locked on. A single perfectly calculated blast struck, tearing through armor and shield alike. The enemy ship fractured, spinning helplessly into the void. It was the opening strike, the first clear message that humanity had returned not as prey, but as predator. Every human ship followed the example. Lasers cut through enemy formations, missiles struck with deadly accuracy, and shields flared under counterattacks that were no match for the humans' coordinated assault. The Zerathians had thought themselves invincible, hidden behind layers of strategy and arrogance. They had underestimated humanity. Again. But the battle was not without cost. Debris from exploding ships floated like deadly stars, threatening to strike the fleet. Pilots maneuvered with nerves of steel, weaving between fragments while keeping weapons trained on the enemy. Engineers rerouted power, repaired shields mid-battle, and ensured that no human ship faltered. Every action mattered. Every second counted. In the heart of the chaos, Kale saw it, the fear in the Zerathians' movement. Their formation faltered, precision replaced by panic. They had underestimated more than human strength. They had underestimated human resolve, human unity, and human courage. The very thing that had allowed humanity to survive countless dangers across centuries now guided them. They would not stop until the threat was ended. Kale's hand rested on the console, steady as ever. "We are the storm they never saw coming," he said quietly. "And storms do not wait. They strike." The fleet surged forward, piercing deeper into the enemy trap. Every human aboard felt the truth in Kale's words. They were not just fighting a battle. They were delivering justice. They were showing the galaxy that humanity did not forgive cruelty. They did not hesitate. And they never, ever forgot. The first clash was over, but the battle had only just begun. The Zerathians had awakened humanity's wrath, and humanity was ready to ensure that no species would ever again dare to cross them. The void around Vera 9 burned with light. Beams of plasma carved through darkness, missiles streaked like falling stars, and the deep roar of energy cannons echoed in the silence of space. Humanity had arrived, and the Zerathians could no longer hide behind their arrogance. Every human, ship moved with purpose, every crew member a part of a greater force. This was not chaos. It was precision in motion, the dance of a species that had endured and grown stronger with every challenge. Admiral Kale Soren watched from the bridge of the Resolute, eyes unwavering. "Fire everything at lead target," he ordered. The fleet responded instantly. Human ships had evolved tactics over centuries, combining speed, firepower, and intelligence in ways no enemy could predict. Each strike was calculated, each maneuver deliberate. The Zarathians had prepared for battle, but they were unprepared for the unity and skill of humanity. The first Zarathian battleship erupted in fire. Armor shattered, energy shields overloaded, and the ship's structure broke apart like paper under a blade. The explosion was visible even from orbit, a testament to human engineering and precision. Kyle allowed himself a brief nod, but there was no celebration. There would be time enough for that later. Right now, the fight demanded focus, and every human knew it. Other ships followed, each strike tearing holes in the Zarathian fleet. Lasers slashed through enemy lines while torpedoes found gaps in their shields. The Zarathians tried to respond, launching counterattacks with sharp precision, but the humans anticipated every move. Humanity had learned patience, strategy, and the art of war through centuries of survival. They did not just fight, they executed perfection under pressure. But it was not just technology that gave the humans the edge. It was their resolve, their unyielding will. The Zarathians, for all their cunning, could not grasp the depth of human determination. Every crew member on the Resolute and across the fleet carried the weight of the past. The families lost, the colonies destroyed, the cries of the innocent. Anger fueled their aim, but it was tempered with purpose. They were not seeking revenge, they were delivering justice. As explosions lit the dark expanse of space, Lieutenant Mara reported enemy movements. "They're breaking formation, Admiral." Confusion spreading. They didn't anticipate coordinated speed and precision. Kyle's lips pressed into a thin line. He had expected this moment, but seeing it unfold was always different. There was no joy here, only the quiet satisfaction of duty performed. Humanity had waited for this day, and now the Zarathians were feeling the consequences of underestimating them. A new wave of human attacks surged forward. The fleet pierced through the shattered enemy lines, sweeping across the void like a tide of steel and fire. Even the smallest human ship played a crucial role. Engineers rerouted energy, gunners fired with perfect timing, and pilots threaded through debris fields with nerves of steel. Every action, every move was part of the same unstoppable force. On board the lead Zarathian ship, panic spread like wildfire. Their arrogance could not withstand the precision and speed of human tactics. The commander's tentacles flailed in disbelief. They had thought humans were slow, predictable, and weak. Now they realized that humanity had grown, smarter, faster, and stronger than ever, and the Zarathians were helpless in the face of it. Kyle watched the destruction, his mind clear. "This is the message," he said softly. "Humanity will not forgive cruelty. Humanity will not forget, and humanity will never be defeated." The first strike was complete, but the battle had only begun. The Zarathians were in disarray, and humanity had the momentum. Every explosion, every tactical maneuver, every precise strike reinforced a truth the galaxy had long known. Humanity endured, humanity adapted, and humanity fought with a force that no enemy could match. In the silence between blasts, the humans held steady. They did not cheer, did not boast. They prepared for the next wave, calm and determined, ready to continue the reckoning. The Zarathians had awakened humanity's wrath, and humanity's wrath would not end until the threat was obliterated completely. The void around Vera 9 was a storm of fire and light. The human fleet had shattered the Zarathian formation, but the battle was far from over. Debris floated like deadly stars, and every move carried risk. Even in victory, the cost of war weighed heavily on every human aboard. For many, this fight was personal, not for glory, but for justice long denied. Admiral Kale Soren walked slowly across the bridge of the Resolute, eyes scanning the chaos outside. He saw the fires of exploding enemy ships reflected on the faces of his crew. There was no fear, only a deep, quiet focus. Yet behind that focus lay memory. Memories of lives lost decades ago, of colonies reduced to ashes, of screams that still haunted the galaxy. Humanity remembered, and in that remembrance, they found strength. Lieutenant Mara transmitted images from the Zarathian-controlled systems. Outposts once thriving, now destroyed, frozen in time as evidence of the enemy's cruelty. Every human aboard the fleet saw them. There were tears on faces hardened by training, hands trembling as grief mingled with determination. The memories were painful, but they were fuel. Humanity did not fight for revenge. It fought to ensure that such pain could never be inflicted again. Ships moved with calculated precision, avoiding debris while keeping weapons trained on the enemy. Every pilot, engineer, and gunner understood that lives depended on their skill, on their focus, on their ability to remain calm amid chaos. The human fleet was more than machines and firepower. It was a living, breathing organism, each member contributing to a force that the Zerathians could not comprehend. Kale stood before the holographic display, mapping the positions of remaining Zerathian vessels. They were fewer now, scattered, panicked, but even in their disarray they were dangerous. The humans had to be precise. Every strike counted. Every mistake could cost lives. And yet, in that pressure, the humans excelled. It was their resolve, their unity, and their refusal to give in to fear that made them unstoppable. Amid the destruction, Kale allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He remembered the first Zerathian attack decades ago, the helplessness, the grief. He had been young then, watching helplessly as his people suffered. Now he was older, stronger, and surrounded by a crew that shared the same determination. Humanity had grown, not just in strength, but in wisdom. They had learned that anger alone was not enough. Justice required patience, strategy, and courage. Zerathians, for all their cunning, could not grasp the depth of human emotion. They assumed that humans could be frightened, slowed, or broken. They were wrong. Humanity's strength lay not only in technology, not only in tactics, but in their hearts. Every human fought not for conquest, but for survival, for memory, and for the promise that no species would ever face cruelty unchecked. As another wave of enemy ships moved to regroup, Kale gave orders with calm authority. Prepare for precision strikes. Keep shields at maximum, protect each other. The humans moved as one, each ship anticipating the next, each crew member. In the midst of the battle, Lieutenant Mara's voice broke the tension. "Admiral, we're holding, they can't predict us, their formation is breaking." Kale nodded, feeling a weight lift slightly, but he knew the fight was not yet over. The Zerathians were clever, dangerous, and relentless, but the humans had something no enemy could destroy: a united will, sharpened by history, tempered by grief, and strengthened by the knowledge that they would never allow evil to prevail. 3. Stars around Vera 9 reflected off human armor and hulls, painting a scene of light amid destruction. Humanity had endured loss, faced darkness, and now, even in the heat of battle, showed the galaxy what it truly meant to survive. The emotional toll was heavy, but it was also the source of their power. For every tear, every memory, every pain, carried in their hearts, humanity struck with precision, justice, and unyielding strength. And in that storm of fire, light, and emotion, one truth became clear. The Zerathians had awakened something far greater than fear. They had awakened humanity, and humanity would not stop until the reckoning was complete. The shattered remains of the Zerathian fleet drifted like silent ghosts in the void. Humanity had broken their formation, scattered their ships, and reduced their numbers drastically, yet the heart of the enemy remained. The Zerathian command hub, a massive, dark fortress of metal and energy, hovered above Vera 9, a last defiant symbol of cruelty and arrogance. Admiral Kyle Soren stared at it. From the bridge of the Resolute, the weight of history pressing on him, this was the moment every human aboard had trained for, dreamed of, and waited decades to see. "Target coordinates locked," Lieutenant Mara reported, her fingers flying over the console. "All forward batteries ready. Shields at maximum. We strike together." Her voice was calm, but beneath it was a quiet tremor, the human awareness of what this attack would mean. They were not attacking empty machines, they were attacking the last bastion of a species that had caused unimaginable pain. Kale's eyes hardened. This is the final strike. Every ship, every weapon, every mind, focus. End this now. The fleet responded instantly, moving as one. Human vessels glimmered with energy shields, engines pulsing like the heartbeat of a living being. Every gunner, pilot, and engineer knew their role. Every strike had purpose. Humanity's precision was unmatched, and every crew member felt the weight of responsibility. The first salvo hit the command hub with blinding brilliance. Explosions tore through armor and energy fields, shaking the massive structure. The Zarathians retaliated with everything they had, but it was too late. Their defenses were crumbling, their leadership fractured. Humanity's strikes were relentless, each one calculated, each one leaving no room for error. Kyle walked along the bridge, watching his fleet move like a single organism. He felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief that humanity had the strength to finish what they started. Sorrow for the years of suffering that had led to this day. Every human aboard carried memories of loss, pain, and injustice. This final strike was not just strategy. It was justice long overdue. The Zarathian command hub shuddered, sparks flying as critical systems failed. Tentacles flailed wildly within the control chamber as their commander realized the inevitable. They had underestimated humanity again. Their arrogance, their cruelty, and their pride could not withstand the unity and resolve of a species that refused to forgive, refused to forget, and refused to yield. Kyle gave the order. All ships, focus fire. Finish this. Leave nothing. Human beams of light converged on the hub, cutting through metal and energy like molten knives. Explosions erupted, visible even from orbit. The hub fractured, then broke apart entirely, sending shards of Zarathian ships and debris into the darkness. Silence followed, the quiet, vast silence of victory. No Zarathian command remained. No hope remained. The last species to enrage humanity had been obliterated. For a moment, the fleet drifted in space. Stars reflected off human armor and hulls, painting a scene of cold beauty amidst destruction. The humans allowed themselves a brief pause, not for celebration, but to breathe and acknowledge the gravity of what had been done. They had struck decisively, ending a threat that had haunted the galaxy for decades. They had fought with courage, precision, and unyielding will. Kyle turned to his crew, voice soft but steady. This is why we endure. This is why we fight. Today, humanity has reminded the galaxy what it means to survive. We do not forgive cruelty. We do not forget injustice. And we will never allow evil to go unchallenged. His words were not boastful. They were the truth, a statement carved in action, not words. The Resolute and the fleet began to regroup, scanning the debris fields for survivors, though there were none. Humanity's strike had been final, precise, and complete. The galaxy had witnessed the force of a species that would not bow, a species that endured, adapted, and triumphed when tested. In the silence that followed, the humans reflected on what had been accomplished. They had avenged the past, protected the future, and demonstrated the full measure of their resolve. The Zarathians had underestimated them, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Above all, one truth shone brighter than the stars. Humanity would endure, protect, and rise, no matter the darkness it faced. And for every species that had dared cruelty, the warning was clear. Humanity strikes with justice, precision, and a force that cannot be resisted. The stars above Vera 9 shone cold and distant, reflecting on the quiet hulls of humanity's fleet. The Zarathians were gone, obliterated without mercy, leaving only drifting debris as a reminder of their cruelty. For the first time in decades, the humans allowed themselves to breathe, to feel the weight of what they had accomplished. The galaxy had been witness to a force unlike any other, a species that would endure, protect, and strike with precision and justice. Admiral Kale Soren stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes tracing the void where the enemy had fallen. He felt a mix of relief, sorrow, and pride. Relief that the threat was ended, sorrow for the countless lives lost to the Zerathians long ago, and pride in the crew that had fought with unwavering resolve. Every human aboard had played a role in the reckoning, and every action had been guided by memory, honor, and purpose. Lieutenant Mara approached quietly. "Admiral, systems report no survivors. The Zerathian fleet is completely destroyed." Her voice was steady, but the weight of truth hung between them. Humanity had been merciful in nothing. They had acted with precision, decisiveness, and the certainty that no species would ever provoke them without consequence. Kyle nodded, silently acknowledging her words. Across the fleet, humans worked with careful efficiency. Debris was scanned for salvageable materials, systems checked, and repairs begun on the fleet's own vessels. Even in victory, there was no celebration. Humanity did not fight for glory. They fought to ensure peace, to protect the future, and to demonstrate that cruelty and arrogance had limits when faced with a species that never forgets and never yields. Kale reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had survived countless dangers, grown stronger through adversity, and risen from the ashes of tragedy. The Zerathians had thought themselves untouchable, clever beyond measure, and cruel without consequence. But they had underestimated something no intelligence or technology could replicate: the unbreakable will of humanity, shaped by history, memory, and the desire to protect all that they held dear. As the fleet prepared to leave Vera 9 orbit, Kyle addressed his crew over the communication system. "We have faced the darkness and struck it down. We have remembered the past, endured the present, and ensured a future free from their cruelty. Humanity does not forgive evil, does not forget injustice, and will rise stronger whenever threatened. Today we have proven that." There were no cheers, only a quiet understanding. Every crew member felt the truth in Kale's words. Humanity's strength was not just in weapons or tactics, it was in heart, unity, and resolve. They had endured, survived, and triumphed, and the galaxy would remember. Not as a tale of conquest, but as a testament to the power of endurance, courage, and justice. Far across the stars, whispers of humanity's actions began to spread. Friendly civilizations spoke in awe, fearful species in caution. The legend of humanity grew, not because they sought domination, but because they had shown the galaxy what it meant to endure, to protect, and to fight with unyielding purpose. The last species to provoke humanity had fallen, and the universe had learned a lesson it would never forget. Kale watched as the fleet set course for home. The stars stretched into lines as faster-than-light engines carried them away from the battlefield. Humanity had faced cruelty, survived the unthinkable, and emerged victorious. Their actions were a warning, a promise, and a legacy. The galaxy had witnessed the might of a species that would never bow, never surrender, and never allow injustice to flourish. And in that silence between the stars, one truth echoed across the void. Humanity endures. Humanity protects. Humanity strikes with justice. Any species foolish enough to enrage them again would find no mercy. The last Zerathian was gone, but humanity's story, its courage, its heart, and its relentless spirit would shine forever among the stars. The galaxy would remember this day. The galaxy would respect humanity, and humanity would continue to rise, ready for whatever darkness,